We're on.
All right. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for our Mulberry Talent Partners Job Search Workshop today. I'm just going to give everyone a minute to log in here. Okay, looks like people are rolling in, so we can go on ahead and get started. So I'm Laura Back. I am the Operations and Marketing Director at Mulberry Talent Partners. We're joined today by Lauren Francis, who is our founder and president. And then we are so pleased to welcome Kanika Tolver today. She is the founder and career coach at Career Rehab, which is based out of Washington, D.C. If you are new to Mulberry Talent Partners, welcome. We are a recruiting and temporary staffing and executive search firm headquartered in Portland, Oregon. We specialize in HR, professional office, financial, payroll, and operations positions for direct hire, contract, and temp to hire positions. And then we also offer these bi-weekly job search workshops that we launched in April. So we hope that you will join us for future ones, and we're so glad to have you here today. Quick kind of housekeeping things. If you have any questions that come up, please feel free to use the Q&A section here on Zoom. Kanika will save some time at the end to answer questions. So if there's anything that she doesn't cover, just feel free to interject. And then also we are excited to announce that we are going to raffle off 5 copies of Kanika's book, Career Rehab. So we will get in touch with the lucky winners this afternoon. There it is. And we're so excited to share that. And we'll also share a link to purchase it on Amazon as well. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it on over to Lauren Francis.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lauren Francis, and I'm the founder of Mulberry Talent Partners. As Laura mentioned, we're a staffing agency in Portland, Oregon, and we are hosting the Mulberry workshops that help job seekers find and help them with job search and job search tips, and we also have guest speakers that come on, someone like Kanika. So we're so happy to have Kanika here today. Kanika is an author, she is a coach, she is a speaker, and she is the founder of Career Rehab. And she joins us today from Washington, D.C. Welcome welcome Kanika. Let's jump right in. What is Career Rehab?
So career rehab is really about renovating your career. It's really about career restoration, as I describe it in my book. It's about gutting out the bad stuff within your career and putting in the good things. It's like a house. You have to renovate it to put it on the market. We have to renovate ourselves, and we have to get new skill sets, and we have to update our resumes and our online presence so we can be marketable for new jobs. So sometimes we got to do the work to kind of, rehab our career.
You mentioned in your book, you mentioned Rehab You. Can you tell us about that?
So Rehab You is like a self-evaluation process in the book where I talk about how we have to look at ourselves and ask ourselves certain questions about our careers. What skill sets are we lacking? What certifications do we need? What education do we need? And are we happy at our current job? Just so we can make better career transitions. And it starts with us really going into ourselves and looking into ourselves and figuring out what is going to make us better for a better job, or just to get a promotion, or just to do a career change.
Exactly. I also read, you mentioned Rehab You Career Blueprint. And you had very specific ideas about that for people to grasp and understand.
So the career blueprint is kind of like, the analogy that I used earlier about like putting yourself out there on the market like a house. You have to create a blueprint of the things that you want for your career. So it's really about understanding, what salary do you want? What career location do you desire? You can't just jump out there into a job search without a strategy. So the career blueprint kind of like explaining to yourself, like, what are the things that you want out of your new job search? So that's some of the things that I try to identify, like location, like salary. Do I want to work for a big organization or a small organization? You kind of need that before you just jump out there onto Indeed or LinkedIn, unprepared with what you're searching for. So the career blueprint is kind of like the foundation to what you want your career to look like.
Yeah, I found that really helpful when I read that in your book. It's very clear and it helps people see the steps that they need to take, and it just sort of captures how someone could approach the next steps in their life and in their career. Very,
Yeah,
very helpful.
yeah,
So
yeah.
one of the things you do mention that I loved it's not the company's responsibility to make you happy. It is your job to find and create career happiness for yourself. And I find, and you mentioned also, too often professionals put their trust and goals and career goals in the hands of others.
Yes. So I think we naturally have been conformed to think that it's our leadership's responsibility or our organization's responsibility to take care of our career. It's 100% our responsibility. If you get with a great organization and they want to do that for you, then that's a great, that's a great asset or enhancement to your career. But this book is really, Career Rehab is really about you taking back career ownership and you figuring out how you can be a better professional. So when you are thinking about rehabbing your career, there are things that you're going to have to do the work. If you can't get training from your job because there's a budget, the budget is not there, then it's your responsibility to go out and do more online courses, use Udemy, use LinkedIn Learning, use YouTube to maximize these digital resources so you can take your career to the next level. You shouldn't say, oh, I can't do this because my job doesn't have training budget. You need to figure out how to make the time to make yourself more marketable for the next role.
One of the things I loved about your book is at the end of every chapter, you have a person that you've coached, and you talk about their journey and how they've been helped and guided. Can you briefly, before we jump into personal branding, because that's a big part of your book, can you tell us a little bit about your career rehab?
So my career rehab journey actually started in 2014 when I left the federal government to go work for private sector. At the time, I didn't even know what career rehab was about. I was just like reinventing myself. I had been in the federal government space for a very long time. And I said, I'm tired of being at this job that I don't like. So I started to really redo my resume so it could be, it could sound more private sector-ish because, government has its own brand and then private sector has its own brand. So what I did was I just rebranded myself and I went and got a job as a senior consultant at Deloitte. I didn't even know who Deloitte was because I had such a federal government brand that I had to figure out how was I going to fit into these Fortune 500 companies. So I started to do my resume over. I started to make new connections on LinkedIn. I became a networking junkie. And I started to network with people that were smarter than me and they worked at these amazing companies that I had desire to work for. And then I started to really invest into self-learning. So for me, it made me feel forced to not use my job as a responsibility to send me training, and it forced me to step up and to take training on my own so I could pass, a lot of other tech certifications because I'm in tech. I'm a career coach, but by default, I am in the technology industry.
Fantastic. That's a great story. So, we're in difficult times right now, but also, before COVID, can you tell us how one develops a personal brand for their career? Can you talk about that a little bit?
So personal branding for your career, some people frown upon it because they think that you're making it all about you, but the employer has made it all about them. They have, they're looking for applicants that have a certain skill set. So, I look at personal branding as the 3 E's: is education, experience, and exposure. Because at the end of the day, people want people that are educated. They want people to have professional experience. And 3, they want people that have been exposed to challenging work projects, right? They've been exposed to doing certain tasks, certain responsibilities, leading teams, or maybe they are someone that has been behind the scenes, but they have a lot of good communication skills, good soft skills. Your personal brand, that's the foundation of it. We've all have, or most of us have formal education, like a college degree or certification. And then some of us have had several different roles, and that's our experience. I think we have to get in the habit of telling the story, and that's where personal branding comes from. Telling the story of your education, your experience, and the exposure that you've had in these different professional environments. And I think that it is articulated clearly through your resume and your LinkedIn profile as the bare minimum. Like, I mean, you can have a personal brand that goes beyond that, but you need a resume, you need a LinkedIn profile, and people need to be able to find you online.
So you don't feel like this is like hot right now? This is something that everybody's talking about. It's a buzzword and so on. It's really fashionable, and this is just going to go out of style in, a year or so. How do you respond to that?
I get that question a lot because people think that this is a trendy topic. But I think in this digital age, for people that are actually, I would say this for the millennials, it's the coolest thing you could be doing right now is having a personal brand, because we're maximizing social media, blogging, writing books, creating products and services based upon the foundation of the experience that we have. Then you have the other generation is the baby boomers and Gen Xers who are trying to do a career change, who never thought of themselves like brands. So the reinvention is what's happening for that generation. So they are coming to me and saying, hey, I've been at the same job for 20 years and I'm ready to move on, but I have no clue how to do it because I don't have a personal brand and I always had an employee mindset. So I think this is I won't even say it's like a trend. I would just say it's a career transformation shift for a lot of us that have been in the workplace. And I think the new college students, like coming out, the new fresh graduates, I think they're already personal brands because they're free thinkers already. So yeah, I don't think they're going to have a problem with adopting this mindset.
Absolutely. It's not your grandfather's career anymore.
Yeah, because I think personal branding is really helpful for those that want to be able to go to different companies. At one time, we were taught to stay at the same company for 20, 30 years. And I think personal branding gives you that unstuck mindset.
Absolutely. No, that's well put. Can you share more about how to market yourself like an ad and get noticed on LinkedIn and Indeed?
So AD stands for accomplishing dominating success. So in my book, I talk about that a lot. And I talk about billboard ads. We see Beyonce, we see Starbucks, we see Target, right? As we're driving down the Beltway or as we're in the mall, they have these ads. The way that we as professionals can have our own little ads and accomplish dominating success is by making sure that we go beyond having just a LinkedIn profile. So some of the things that I've been encouraging my clients to do is to, blog on LinkedIn posts, create articles around the things that you're knowledgeable about. That gets noticed by industry leaders and recruiters as you're sharing that content. Another thing that's really good to do is to get certifications and to post your certificate on LinkedIn, because that's like a billboard. I got certified in AWS Cloud last year and I posted that on LinkedIn and recruiters were like, hey, I want to hire you because I have a job. That is like an ad that you would see on a billboard, but it's an ad for you, and you're accomplishing dominating success by showing your knowledge by getting certified. And the last thing that I encourage some of my clients to do is to write books, write white papers, do presentations, and reshare that, and do speaking engagements sharing your knowledge because you're marketing yourself.
Absolutely. So what are a couple other questions that we had, or other ideas that you and I had talked about prior to today? What are best practices for negotiating a job offer? I know we're kind of switching gears a little bit, but
okay.
Yeah,
I love to talk about money. So I talk about in the book, I have a chapter called Get the Money, Power, and Respect. And I think it's important for us to negotiate because not only do we want the money, we want the power and the respect. So first, let's talk about the money. So if you were doing a negotiation for salary, it's so important for you to, one, know what the market is in your city and state. So often people are taking job offers not knowing that the salary for DC is different than Oregon or different than North Carolina. So I really encourage people to use Glassdoor and PayScale to put in the job role, the title, and to put in their city and state before they accept the offer. The second thing is, this is really important to do, is to negotiate paid time off. Because sometimes by you having number of years of experience, you can negotiate, instead of getting 6 hours per pay period, you can get, maybe get 8 or 9. It doesn't hurt to ask. I think it's so important to ask and be told no than to accept something lower than you were getting at your last role. Another thing that I like to tell my clients to negotiate is annual training budget. Figure out how much money that they allocate per employee for training. It goes back to what we talked about earlier. Some companies have a big training budget, but you need to ask about that. And another thing that you can negotiate is working from remote. Everybody's working remote right now. Everybody, right? But one day working remote, some companies will be going back into the office. And if that is work-life balance is important to you, and having a couple of days working from home, I think it's important to negotiate that. But I think it's so important to know what your competing companies are offering employees, instead of just taking the first thing that is given to you. Especially us as women, we do not negotiate like we should. So
yeah, definitely, that's a big issue. You had mentioned, now this goes into this next question that we had talked about, which is you had mentioned some thoughts on how to get promoted while working remotely.
All right, so I work remotely just like everyone else right now. And the thing that I'm going to actually do an article or video soon about this. So this is the exclusive tips that I'm going to give you guys right now, is getting promoted from working at home means that you got to show up in a different way. So you got to show up in a different way. The way you would show up in the office, you can't talk to people face to face. You can't be in people's face. You can't be in meetings. So number one, always be responsive. Respond to emails as fast as you can, and as accurate with the information that you're providing in the email, because that shows that you're still present and you're still there. Number two is to always make sure that you are talking on, even if it's not video and it's just audio meetings, audio web meetings, make sure that you are speaking up, asking questions. Don't get lost in just sitting on the call. Even if you ask a question, or even if you have a comment, make sure that they can hear your voice every meeting, because they're going to say that Kanika is still engaged. We haven't lost her. She's at home, but she's still there. And the last thing you want to do is really do good quality assignments. Go above and beyond to deliver, early instead of, on time. I think showing that is important, and having weekly tag ups with your manager, which I do, is to let them know about everything that's going on, so there's no surprises. Any risk or issues that you're having with your work, have a weekly 15-minute, 30-minute call with management to let them know what your needs are, and to let them know how things are going with your work.
Oh, those are great. Those are great advice. In chapter 3 of your book, you address stress and anxiety. And in section 3 is titled Rethink Stress. Can you help our attendees turn anxiety into accomplishments for career success?
That's a good question, because I have anxiety myself. So some of the things that I have been doing, and I think anxiety has gotten worse since COVID-19, and since all of these horrible things that are going on in the world. I think when people's kids are at home and people are trying to manage their life with their job and their home life and their family. So one thing that I think is important to do is to prioritize your to-do list. I think it's so important I think sometimes we get anxious because we get overwhelmed with everything that we have to do. So I think it's important to have a to-do list. One thing that I've been doing recently is I have been really increasing my amount of exercise time and time that I step away from the computer. Because I think sitting at home and sitting on the computer for 9 or 10 hours a day, it increases your anxiety gets worse. So exercising. Then I think it's also important to, when you're working on tasks and you feel like you're going to be late, or you feel like something is happening wrong with the project, is to properly communicate in advance to team members and to leadership to lower the amount of anxiety and stress that you have about being late or not, or things not working well. I think sometimes we suffer in silence, and sometimes right now people are so willing to like be more compassionate about everything that you may have going on at home and going on within your life. Things at work happen, and it's okay, and we can't beat ourselves up over it. So those are just a few things. There are like 10 different things in that chapter. We don't have time to go through all of them, but those are a few things. Yeah.
Right. You know, I also experience people that are under tremendous amount of stress while they're in the job search. You know, the search, especially if there's been a layoff or a furlough and they have, anxiety around that, and have a hard time kind of, I don't know, just feeling more at ease going through the process. And a lot of it has to do with confidence, but just sometimes it's just anxiety about, and then sometimes people end up taking positions they don't really want.
Yes. So my advice for that, because I think we all have experienced that, whether they've been laid off or they're in a bad job and they want to get out of that job immediately and really fast. So one thing that you can do to kind of help your job search to have less anxiety, here are a few tips. 1, attend virtual career fairs. As much as you can, attend virtual career fairs. Number 2, attend webinars and virtual events that are talking about these type of topics, because it will help you with the support. Number 3, expand your network on LinkedIn. You're at home, you have nothing to do but maybe to clean your house and help your family and work. Figure out how to meet more people at the companies that you desire to work for and set up virtual Zoom calls with them to get more information about the inside scoop of what's going on at that company. The next thing you can do is ask for company referrals. So if I know Laura works at Deloitte, I should say, Laura, here's my resume. Can you refer me into the system? They get a bonus. They get kudos, because the recruiter's going to say, Laura said Kanika was a great applicant. So connect with people that are already working at the companies, find the job that you want to apply to at that company, and ask for company referrals with your network of people that you already know or the new people that you plan on meeting. And the last thing that you want to do is create a job search schedule. This is so important, because people are blindly applying. They're just on these job board sites and they're not applying with strategy. So if you want to be a project manager, you want to look for 5 to 10 job titles that are under the project management umbrella, and you want to make a list of those, and you want to apply to various roles that are similar to project manager. So you're not tapping out on applying just to one role title. You're applying to various roles, and pick a day where you just do Indeed. And then on Monday, you do Indeed. Tuesday, you do LinkedIn. And then on Wednesday, you do the actual company. Go to the company site. Stop relying on the job boards. Go directly and apply through the company site, so you can cut out the job search profile site, and you can directly apply and connect with those recruiters online. And the last thing, because these are a lot of tips, but there's a lot of anxiety, is connect with the recruiters at the companies you desire to work for. Search for them. If you want to work at Google, you put Google Recruiter and connect with them on LinkedIn and introduce yourself and explain to them that you are looking for a role and give them your resume. You're doing their job for them.
Absolutely. Those are great. You know, I do notice too with LinkedIn, there's always an opportunity to draft something when you're connecting with people. Use that opportunity. And if people don't reach back out to you, reach back out to them again.
Or if the first thing about reaching out, you have to reach out with good intent. Mm-hmm. Networking is a two-way street. It's not you're just taking from them. The thing that I've learned the most is that you edify who you're connecting with and make them sound like, oh, you have an amazing profile. You have an amazing background. You make them feel warm and fuzzy in the first couple of sentences, and then they're like, oh yeah, she made me feel good about myself. And then you explain your acts. Why are you connecting with them? Don't just blindly connect with them and they have no clue why who are you? You know, there's a lot of weirdos out there, right? So connect and network with intent and with strategy. And what I do is I say, hey, I'm going to create my little introduction template and I'm going to reuse this and I'm going to try to connect with 20 different people. 50% of them probably may never reach back out to you, but the other 10 probably will. So you have to kind of like be consistent with it and do it on a daily basis.
Terrific. Love that. So Laura, I think we're nearing the end and we've got 6 questions in our Q&A file.
Yeah, and we had some that were pre-submitted, so we'll see what we can get through.
Okay.
I know one question that came in, it looks like twice, Kanika, was how do you address a gap on your resume from pregnancy and motherhood? If you have any ideas on that.
I think it's important to just be honest when you're applying to jobs. I think, sickness and motherhood is something that we just can't control. So I think honesty is really important. I think people are fair in that regard. And then I think while you may be out, it's important to maybe do some volunteer experience in between that gap, and maybe use a friend or family's company, maybe volunteer at your church, at a nonprofit to fill in the gap, just to show that you were doing something productive during that time.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Okay, and then this question is, what kind of changes do you see with interviewing and hiring regarding the increased awareness for equity and justice, especially with increasing social media usage to blog, post, comment, etc.?
I'm not really sure if I understand the question completely, but I think with the awareness of diversity and inclusion, you said, I foresee being a minority myself. I'm not sure if I'm answering this correctly, but
Sure.
Being a minority myself, I do foresee that companies will be making a better effort at trying to hire more women and minorities for companies. I still think it's important to not do your research on the company. I don't want to be taken into the company because I'm Black. I want to be taken because I am experienced, and I still want to be treated fairly. And the next thing I think is important to do is to actually use that to your advantage right now. If you wanted to work for Google or Facebook and you're Black and they never hired them and they have an initiative for you to get in, I think that's a strategy that, a hustler would do, is they would say, hey, these companies didn't hire brown and Black folks, but now I really want to be a part of this movement. So I think I would focus on genuine diversity and inclusion strategies in companies. And I'll also use it to my advantage, because right now there's a lot of racism guilt, and I would play on that for my personal brand. I would really take every opportunity to get into those companies.
Sure.
I'm not sure if that was the type of question that they were looking for.
I think that was great.
That was
I also want to say that it's important as your personal brand is that you are really aware of what you're posting during these times, and you're not doing any evil intent posts. So if you are a white person, you're not posting anything that's pure racism, because now people are getting canceled. Their careers are getting canceled for that foolishness. So don't use social media as an opportunity to 100% share all your opinions about political views, race views, because that will come back to haunt you. And people will say, I don't want to hire her because she said this nasty thing 5 years ago. You know what I mean? So I think with blogging and social media right now, you have to continue to do things right if you're in a job search, because companies are not going to hire you.
Right.
That's true.
Okay, I think we have time maybe for one more quick question. So this person originally worked in human resources, was in it for a few years, and then later decided that she really didn't like it. And so now she's looking to pivot into an administrative assistant or project assistant type of role. How can she kind of answer those kind of questions in an interview about why she's made that change?
Yeah, that's a very good question, because it's kind of like she's not going backwards, but it's kind of like she's doing a career shift and going into a different industry. I think the first thing she needs to do is she needs to identify the transferable skills that can go from HR to administration and to project management. And she needs to maybe update her resume and sprinkle some of the administrative duties and responsibilities that she's doing in the HR sector into her current role and in her past roles to validate that she has the experience to do administration or project management. Mm-hmm. Number two, I think she just needs to be honest with them about why she's making the shift. Career changes are really happening to, I mean, a lot of people want to get into tech and a lot of people want to go into different areas. And I think that companies are willing to do that, but they have to see that you've had some skills and knowledge. And the last thing that she can do is if she really wants to get into like project management, she can go and get the PMP, the project management certification. She can get some other administrative certifications that could vouch for the lack of experience that she doesn't have and showing that she has some level of book knowledge. Mm-hmm. And I think that would definitely help her get her foot in the door. But she's going to have to, I always say, you have to mash up your past with the future. You just can't talk about, oh, I did this old stuff in the past, but I'm trying to go into project management and all you're talking about is HR. You're going to have to like commingle the two.
That's really great advice.
Yeah, that is great.
So I think that is all the time we have today. Just a quick look at our upcoming workshops. We will send out an email that'll include the links to register for all of these. And then finally, stay in touch. Connect with Kanika on LinkedIn. She is consistently sharing really great career content. Buy her book. Mm-hmm. We'll also include the link to that. And then keep an eye out because we are going to do that raffle today. And hopefully you will be one of the lucky winners. So thank you, Kanika. This was really informational, and I hope that all the attendees found it to be as well.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys having me.
Kanika, thank you so much.
Thank you, Lauren.
All right. We'll see you in a little bit.
All right.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Are we